Hi, I'm Premnath from Danfoss Climate Solutions. Welcome to this Danfoss ADAP-KOOL training video. In this session, we're going to take a closer look at the System Manager 800A and the Wi-Fi access point feature. The Wi-Fi access point feature gives us the possibility to connect to a system manager without unplugging the existing LAN network. The Wi-Fi access point is also separated entirely from the other networks, so it's also good for those situations where you have a customer network that is connected via the wired LAN connection and you don't want others to interfere with your network. Then you can use the Wi-Fi access point as it is separated from the rest of the networking interfaces on the System Manager 800A. To enable the Wi-Fi access point, I have to first log into my unit, and once this is done, I can then see that in the upper right corner here I have the Wi-Fi access point button. Once it's pressed, I have the option to enable the access point or disable it. And once it's enabled, then it will create its own little Wi-Fi network here around itself where it functions as the router, and all the devices that connects to it will be connected to this Wi-Fi network in this System Manager 800, and then those units will then be getting an IP address from this device. So there's only this small network within the devices that you connect to the Wi-Fi network and the device itself. As said earlier, if you want to connect to other slave units or hosted networks, then you have to connect or enable the Wi-Fi access point on those units and then connect to the Wi-Fi access point on them. Once the Wi-Fi is enabled, then we can see the name of this Wi-Fi access point and the password I have to use to connect to this access point. This is the details that I have to see on my device that I'm connecting with, and this is the password that I have to type in to connect to this device. The last detail that you can see here is an IP address, and that's the IP address of this unit. So if you want to access the unit, this is the IP address you have to type in to your browser or StoreView web application. Let's take a closer look at how this is done, for instance, from my smartphone. First of all, I have to enable the Wi-Fi antenna here, and once I do that, my smartphone here will then scan for different networks, and one of them, as you can see, is the Danfoss SM0 network, which is the one that my system manager has created. So I'll select on that one, type in the password for that, and it was at NFS 2020, connect. And if the password is correct, I'll now be connected to the system manager. I'll just select keep Wi-Fi connection because it didn't detect any internet connection, so that's why I'm getting a warning message on my unit. So now there's a connection established, and I can open my browser window and type in the IP address that was also given to me for this unit, 192.168.9.1. The screen that I see now is the StoreView browser access or login screen for my unit, and if I type in the correct credentials, I can log in to my unit. There we go, and there you see it. That's the web access interface that I have on my phone. The reason there is nothing else than this utility menu is because that I'm connected to the unit via a smartphone, and the System Manager StoreView browser interface is equipped or is intelligent enough to see that it is a smaller screen, and therefore only this small view is given, and that you don't only have access to the utility menu. If you want the full access, you can click on the options window, for instance on your browser or your tablet, and then select the desktop view, and then you'll see that the layout will change to the same as you know from a PC interface. There's one little thing that you can't do on a Wi-Fi access level. If you notice closer, the graphical layout is grayed out, and that's because with the Wi-Fi access point you are not able to change or edit the graphics in the unit. For that you need to have a wired connection. But everything else, if there was something configured on my unit here, you would have seen that, but everything else is as it should be. I hope that gave you a little insight on how the System Manager's Wi-Fi access point function works. Thank you for watching. For more information, please contact your local Danfoss support or go to our website www.danfoss.com.